This video will cover the installation of the VST EnviroLock ECO Dripless Conventional Nozzle, part number VST NVND. Be safe. Remember, you're dealing with a potentially highly explosive, highly flammable liquid and equipment that can take your life. You must constantly be aware of the need for a high degree of concern for not only the public safety, but your personal safety as well. Don't take any chances or shortcuts. Be sure to check with the local authorities about their safety requirements for the area in which you'll be working. Here are the top safety precautions. 1. Appropriately barricade the work area to block vehicle access. 2. For the dispenser, power it off, lock and tag it out, close the product shear valve. 3. Drain the liquid into an approved container. 4. Remove old hanging hardware before assembling the new components. Always adhere to the appropriate lockout-tagout procedures. If this is a new facility installation, the fueling point must be flushed into an approved container before installing the nozzle. Using this nozzle to flush the system could result in foreign material becoming lodged in the nozzle's valve and cause it not to shut off. Here are the tools and supplies you'll need to install the VST ECO Nozzle. 1. Torque wrench. 2. VST SRT 200 spout nut torque wrench attachment. 3. VST BPT 100 band clamp pincer. 4. Tin snips. 5. O-ring lubricant. 6. Loctite 271. These are pipe thread connections. The use of thread sealant may be necessary. Attach the nozzle on the mating connection. First, tighten it by hand. After hand tightening, hold the nozzle securely and tighten between 1.5 to 3 turns for the NPT thread connections. Use wrenches only on the hex flats of the hose coupling to tighten. Do not over-tighten. Visually inspect all of the hose connections for signs of potential leak points. Immediately repair any issue before proceeding. Now, let's look at how to remove the boot from the VST ECO Nozzle. Using the band clamp pincers, remove the band clamp from the boot. Pull the boot off of the clamping groove of the nozzle body. Pinch the back end of the boot to allow space to place tin snips between the nozzle body and the boot. Cut the boot completely from back to front. Remove the boot from the nozzle. Now, let's look at how to remove the nozzle spout assembly. Hold the interlock rod in place to allow the rod to be disengaged from the hole of the sleeve that is located around the spout nut. Next, slide and rotate the sleeve away from the spout nut and remove the interlock rod. Use tin snips to cut the 2 legs from the interlock sleeve and remove the legs. Use the VST SRT 200 spout nut torque wrench attachment to loosen the spout nut. Once loosened, finish untightening by hand. After the threads are completely disengaged, pull the spout straight out. Now you're ready to install the new spout. The fuel chamber should remain in the nozzle casting with the vacuum sensing tube hole oriented at the top. If the fuel chamber is pulled out of the nozzle casting, check the O-ring for damage. Replace the O-ring if damaged. Lightly lubricate the O-ring prior to reassembly. Insert the fuel chamber into the nozzle casting. The poppet stem with the spring goes through the poppet hole in the fuel chamber, the center hole. Push the fuel chamber until it is flush with the casting. The vacuum sensing tube hole in the fuel chamber should be oriented at the top. Now, how to replace the ECO Nozzle spout. To replace the spout, begin by lightly lubricating all of the O-rings on the spout assembly. Do not block the vacuum sensing tube hole with a lubricant. Align the vacuum sensing tube with the mating hole in the fuel chamber. Firmly insert the spout assembly into the nozzle casting. Align the anti-rotation bump on the spout with a casting notch. Be careful not to damage the spout O-ring. Apply a dab of Loctite 271 to the male thread of the nozzle casting. Be careful not to apply the Loctite so that it would enter into the casting notch. Thread the spout nut onto the nozzle casting and tighten firmly. Use the spout nut torque wrench attachment to torque the spout nut to 34 foot-pounds. The spout should be tight and not able to rotate. Do not over-tighten the spout nut. After tightening the spout nut, remove the zip tie from the spout. Place the interlock rod into the hole of the nozzle casting. Move the sleeve in place so the interlock rod is inserted into the recessed hole on the end of the sleeve. The interlock rod may be compressed into the nozzle to ease the insertion. The interlock rod should be visible through the side hole of the sleeve. Now you're ready to install the boot. Place the band clamp on the boot. Slide the boot over the spout until it snaps over the groove on the nozzle body. Slide the faceplate onto the spout with a smaller outer diameter facing the boot. Engage and disengage the interlock a few times to check for correct functionality. Tighten the band clamp until the boot will not rotate. Now you're ready to attach the latch ring. However, before attaching the latch ring, know that once the latch ring is attached, it cannot be removed, so verify that all the previous steps were followed properly. Verify that the retaining rings are inside the inner groove of the latch ring. Place the latch ring onto the spout so the tapered end of the latch ring faces the opened end of the spout. Push back against the faceplate until it snaps into the groove on the spout. Pull on the latch ring to verify it will not come off the spout. Anytime you replace or repair a component, you must perform these 3 tests to make sure the component is functioning correctly. 1. A leak test. 2. A nozzle shutoff test. And 3. A resistance test. You've reached the end of this video.